Hi, it's Quilting Nerd again. Today I wanted to show you how I am quilting, or at least starting to quilt, a baby quilt. It is about 1.1 yard large square. It consists of 16 Irish chain blocks in different colors. Each of the blocks is 9 inches large when finished, and I connected them with sashing and those little stones in the middle, and in this way I achieved a nice secondary pattern at the crossings, and I would like to use them when I will be quilting. So let's start. I will use my straight ruler, and for that of course I have to also have my ruler foot. When you quilt with ruler foot, you should pay attention to its height, and so it should be adjustable. Of course, some machines are hopping, and then that's not an issue. But this one is gliding, stationary. So I can actually adjust the height of the foot, how it hovers above the quilt sandwich. In some cases you might have a little screw, which I actually liked it a lot because it was a nice analog way of adjusting it. Why it's important? Because if the foot is too high, you will start skipping the stitches, and if the foot is too low, it will press the fabric and it will be very difficult to move the sandwich under. So right now I have one setting. I will actually reduce it a tiny bit because it's different when you have seams, then they are slightly higher. And when you have lots of seams like here, I may get actually a little bit stuck, and then I will have to readjust it. So that's the little disadvantage of working with quilt foot, with ruler foot. And how I will start? I will start with this central element. Here I will actually enhance it by quilting around it. As you can see, I'm already switching to the quilting modus because I'm interrupting my sentences and trying to do two things at the same time. So now I pulled my bottom thread up, started my stitch, and now I can start with my first stitches. As always with such quilts, I'm working from the middle, and I will simply move to one side so you can see at least part of the process. I chose golden thread because I have so many different colors in my quilt. Where are my scissors? And the yellow thread will match beautifully in its intensity to all the colors that I have here. I have lots of beautiful rich ombre fabrics here, and my backing is in green with some of the leftover fabric in the middle because I had to enlarge it a little bit. So now I want to echo it, but if I will just, I didn't want to break the thread, but I have to offset it a little bit. So what I will do, I will go to the nearest seam line and use it to hide my stitches, at least a little bit. By stitching the echo line, I'm enhancing this secondary effect that I have. And I'm actually disassembling my blocks a little bit, but I like to do that on purpose. Actually, I do it a lot. In this way, the quilting blocks, even the traditional ones, are gaining second life, and the patchwork suddenly doesn't look that traditional. So now I limited my square, and I will fill it with my favorite and the easiest for me pattern to quilt in between swirls. Beautiful rich texture, nice shape. It will attract lots of attention here. See, there I skipped the stitch, which means I have to reduce the height of my foot a little bit. Now I have a choice. Either I will fill this empty space in the corner, or I will come back and fill this narrow space here down. So I would prefer to fill this space first, because I am anyway on my way back here with an echo line. I know that's the place where I want to finish, because then I can travel the line, make a small visit here to fill this space, and then I can go back there. So now I adjusted the camera correctly and I switched on additional lights, so now you can see what I am doing with more details. I got distracted that I have to talk, and I am excited that I started quilting the quilt, and then I'm out of my normal routine settings. So, the first element is done. I will probably have to repeat it once more because the beginning was not so good. So now it's a moment where I have to cut this thread. And I will move on to the side because that's how I am doing that. It is I always try to quilt from the side, from the middle to the side, so I am always reducing the bulk on my right hand side. So why it's not, the thread was not cut. The next element is the sashing. And as you can see, I went too far. But it's in the seam, so it's not such a big deal. And I can immediately, I have to concentrate. I can immediately mark my next square. Usually this is a moment where I am still not sure if the idea for the quilt design will work or not, but I learned to wait and not panic. Also, it takes a moment for me to develop the most optimal strategy to learn how to go around the quilt and the pattern so I can be most efficient. So now sashing, what we can quilt within this narrow sashing area. There are always good options like wishbones, they always look great. Ribbon candy looks fabulous. We could always continue with the swirls because we have them here, but I think for the texture I will actually go with the wishbones here. So it is almost too much quilting for a baby quilt, so let's see if it will end up as a baby quilt or a wall hanging. If it will turn out to be too stiff, then I will make it as a wall hanging. So now I have my sashing done. I can move to the square, and again I pulled it already around. Now I can use the stitch I already did anyway, and I can pull the echo. When you're holding the ruler against your foot, its trick is to find a balance between holding it against the foot but not pressing it against, because then you would exercise too much force on the machine. So it is once you have it, then you can, it's more like you are pressing the ruler against the sandwich and just a little bit against the ruler, but not against the ruler, because then it's sliding, it wouldn't be not stable. So there's more applying the pressure from up than to the side. And now again we can repeat the swirl, so this time with better visibility and better light. I mentioned before, when quilting with ruler foot, you will come to those thicker places where you have more fabric because of the seams coming together. And then you will get stuck because the ruler foot has its own height. This one at least, because it's not hopping. Then you will have the urge to push a little bit more while you are still quilting. Resist this urge, because what can happen is that you will push too strong, you will actually skip stitches, or you will have you will jump somewhere without control. So if you will feel you are stuck, then better stop, adjust the height of the foot, move across the thicker place, stop, readjust the foot, and then keep quilting. Again, now I want to finish somewhere here, or somewhere close to the edge, so I will continue filling the space that I don't have to make complicated logistics calculations. See, I have some space left behind. If I will leave it like that, it's not looking good, so I have to actually go back and then travel back again to the middle. First I can of course fill it. Now, right here, it's a good place to go over to the next sashing, because here I have my seam. So if I will end up here, I don't have to break up my thread. I can just quilt in the seam, in the ditch, and move here. So let's try to end up my quilting here. Right here. So now I can move on. To the edge of my quilt. And I will show you this whole part here because it's actually an important part for the later design. So let's remove the pin. You probably noticed I am not using that many. So what I'm doing right now is because this is not a large quilt, but when it's moved to the edge, it can slide from my table. So I secured it now with my clamp on the side. And now I have a decision to make. Either I will want to continue with my square across the border and interrupt the border, which would be a nice style, or I will limit my design only to the border. Actually, I think I will go on with the interrupted border design. Here I have to aim where is my stitch line, because I have to go back. That's the part where I mentioned where my foot is a little bit too high. And echo line. Perfect, because here I have my seam line that I can just travel and quilt a partial echo line. Here I will not echo because that it's kind of like design will continue here, it's not ending, and the echo line is showing me where my whole section is, so it's just adding to the optical illusion. I'm just leaving enough for the binding. and I can stop. So now I moved from the middle across the half of the patchwork. Now I can move up because that's the way I prefer. I prefer to pull the quilt sandwich on my knees and away from the wall. Some people have different preferences, and whatever you like. Whatever is good, whatever is your arrangements, whatever is preferable for your machine. Some people like to push it to the wall, some people prefer to do it like I do. Doesn't matter, the point is to do it in a systematic manner. And now I will simply now show you still how I quilt this section, and then move also to the side this way, and then I will move to the next level of sashing, and then in this way I will quilt the whole quarter. Then I will rotate it in a way that the quilted part is on my knees because it's stiff and it's not moving that well, but all the unquilted stuff is behind my table and on the side. That's the whole logic how I quilt my quilts, regardless if it's a small quilt like this one or it's a king size quilt.